This program is rated 14 plus and contains scenes of violence and mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
They've been reported missing, and that was very unlike Jasmine to not be in contact.
Jasmine was a really good mother. That's all she wanted to be in life as a mother, and she and Aaliyah were completely inseparable.
All signs of life stopped.
How's it going? Says she's with her sister.
You know, in my experience as an investigator, it wasn't adding up.
It's starting to look very bad. Things go from, I hope she's alive, to I hope we can find her.
To know that someone has killed a 22-month-old child.
It's crazy.
But you're saying that is not you.
Of course not.
You're dealing with a very volatile man.
My opinion, yeah, he's cold. And he's a monster.
We are trying to move forward and think of only positive things and happy memories and keep their spirits close.
Welcome to Crime Beat. I'm Anthony Robart. When a young mother and her 22-month-old daughter miss a series of family and work engagements, loved ones grow concerned. Police work to retrace Jasmine Lovett's movements, only to learn that her footprints of life had come to an abrupt and shocking end, and there was no sign of them anywhere. Here now is Nancy Hicks with Vanished.
In the spring of 2019, a young Calgary mom was planning Easter celebrations. That week, Jasmine Lovett and her 22-month-old daughter, Aaliyah Sanderson, went to a nearby grocery store in the southeast community of Cranston. They were captured on CCTV using the self-checkout on Monday, April 15th at 3:06 p.m. That was the last time the mother and daughter were seen together, alive. On Good Friday, Jasmine's sister texted her. When there was no answer, she reached out on Facebook and later knocked on her door. Again, there was no answer. 2 days later, on Easter Sunday, Jasmine's mother knocked on her door. When no one answered, she left a note for Jasmine to call her. But that call never came.
On April 23rd of 2019, the Calgary Police Service received a missing persons report in regards to Jasmine Lovett and her daughter, Aaliyah Sanderson, who was 22 months old at the time. They've been reported missing by their mother as not being heard of for 7 or 8 days at the time, and that was very unlike Jasmine to not be in contact.
According to Calgary Police, 99% of missing persons cases are resolved within 24 hours when the people are located. However, it was quickly apparent to investigators that this case might be one of those rare 1%.
You can see Jasmine and Aaliyah just leaving the Sobeys on the 15th.
The homicide unit was brought in to investigate.
We focused right away on interviewing family members, exes, anyone that might be able to provide us information to find our missing persons.
Just trying to find out last time they spoke to them, who are some of her friends and associates, anybody else that we could talk to that might have some information that will, I guess, get us further to finding out where they might be.
So one of the first people we speak to is Aaliyah's dad. He's been estranged from Aaliyah. Unfortunately, he can't tell us a lot of details, but we are able to rule him out as being involved at this time.
I remember interviewing the sister initially in our police car, and she was very emotional about how uncharacteristic this was for Jasmine to not have any communication with them.
That's when police learned Jasmine had a roommate.
So we learned that Jasmine's a single mom, but she is in a relationship with Robert Leeming, who actually lives at the same residence as Jasmine. We learned that Robert's from the UK. They met on a dating app. And we also learned that Robert had recently been unemployed. The relationship between Jasmine and Robert was always a little bit questionable as to the exact status of what that relationship was. There were some family members that thought it was more of a roommate situation, and there were some family members that thought for sure that they were intimate and they were a couple. If you're living with somebody and those people go missing, we're going to need to talk to you to find out what you know. Whether you're involved or not, we need to know what you know, because you're the most important person and most important piece of that puzzle.
On April 24th, 2019, more than a week since any of her family had heard from Jasmine, police went to the Cranston townhouse. Interactions with Robert Leeming were captured by several officers' body-worn cameras.
How's it going? Says she's with her sister.
Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Alright, well, we're just gonna take a quick look around. We need to have a look.
So, sorry, you're Robert?
Yeah,
Okay. So,
that's the door.
I've been drinking, smoking a lot, so.
okay.
Okay, so she's not with her sister.
What do you mean?
Well, that's the reason that we're here,
Why do you think we're here?
is that the family's calling us saying we haven't heard from our daughter and our sister.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense?
Yeah,
Okay, why does that make sense?
because I haven't heard from her either.
This isn't just like a roommate, this is your girlfriend.
No, it's more roommate than girlfriend.
Okay.
For the most part, Mr. Leeming's denying kind of any relationship and playing just straight up roommate. Knows her, friends with Aaliyah, but doesn't keep track of her comings and goings. To patrol, it seemed like there was a likelihood he could just be a roommate and he's got a girlfriend. So obviously with that information we look and we have to speak to the girlfriend, who actually confirms and corroborates that she did spend time with Mr. Leeming.
So, the last time that you saw Jasmine was when?
Thursday.
Okay. And at that time, you guys were A-okay or fighting, or what was the status?
I would say in the air.
So what makes you believe that she's with her sister?
She told me that she was going to go and spend Easter with them on Tuesday.
Initially we were looking at the possibility of Jasmine running away. We did know the relationship, at least according to family, did have some issues. So we have to keep that in mind, that maybe this was a personal decision of hers just to leave and basically cut off all ties so she couldn't be found.
If that was true, investigators felt they'd find some sort of footprints of life.
It's not normal for people, especially in today's culture, to just not be in touch with something, not be online somehow. And for that to all stop is really the only reason would be your phone's dead, and that doesn't last that long. So basically the week prior to Jasmine being reported, all signs of life stopped.
Welcome back to Crime Beat. Police worked tirelessly to find a young mother and her 22-month-old daughter. A quick search of her home came up empty, and interviews with family and friends didn't provide any new leads. Here again is Nancy Hixt with Vanished.
It is the devastating news no one wanted to hear. A homicide investigation is now underway into the disappearance of a young Calgary mom and her 22-month-old daughter. Good evening. 25-year-old Jasmine Lovett and her little girl Aaliyah Sanderson have not been seen in 9 days. Tonight, police confirm there is no evidence they are alive.
So last Footprints of Life we have for Jasmine was a purchase made at the Sobeys store at around 3:05 p.m. on the 15th. If something has happened to somebody, you lose a whole week or 10 days, in this case, of gathering evidence and allowing cleanups to be done and things to be discarded, phones to be gotten rid of, anything like that, that in a suspicious death would be common that you have that kind of time. So at this point, decisions made that we're going to arrest Mr. Leeming, bring him for an interview, and get a on-the-record story of him about his relationship with Jasmine and Aaliyah, how long they've been together, what the circumstances are, what he knows about what's going on, and did he have any knowledge of, or any involvement in what happened to Jasmine earlier.
I was assigned by the primary investigator to conduct an interview with Robert Leeming, who was the boyfriend / roommate, whatever his role was at the time. He was from England, but he was living in Canada, owned the condo. He was very cooperative. He was providing a timeline of their relationship, a timeline of when he said he saw them last, a timeline of what he did that week, what he didn't do that week.
When Detective Cole does the interview, myself along with other team members are monitoring this, and the real reason is to look for the things that are being said that, okay, we can prove this, we can prove this, we can prove him false here, that's great. It doesn't matter which way it goes, it's just to find the truth.
Behind the scenes, investigators retraced Leeming's movements.
He actually received a speeding ticket just west of Calgary on April the 18th.
Good afternoon, sir. It's Pastor 132 in the posted 110, so take a quick look at your license registration insurance, please.
It ended up being a red flag for us because of the way Mr. Leeming presented his story to us. That was not included in anything, nor was a trip to Kananaskis or Canmore or Cochrane or anything like that that would have brought him out there. And that's a significant enough event that if I was trying to explain where I was, that's a perfect example of, no, I was here, here's my proof. But he doesn't mention any of that to us.
Cell phone evidence revealed inconsistencies in his timeline.
So for example, he talked about this particular day being home all day. Well then, when it's confronted with cell phone evidence from Jasmine's phone to say that no, she's in Bragg Creek, then he said, oh, that's right, yeah, we went for a picnic. And then he was able to describe some of the snacks that they took for the picnic, where they went for the picnic.
If he's telling the truth, we're trying to corroborate it. So if he says they're for a picnic, then we'll go to Bragg Creek and we'll try to pull video from anything that would capture his vehicle driving by or a possible of his vehicle in the time frames that we're looking at. So we're trying to do everything we can to get as much information and accurate information as we can.
A massive police presence descended on Bragg Creek. As investigators looked for CCTV, search crews scoured the densely forested area on foot and on horseback.
We did not find any CCTV. We didn't find any evidence that would suggest that there's a picnic happening.
Police also got a warrant to search the home Jasmine and Aaliyah shared with Robert Leeming.
The front entrance to that residence, it had been braced shut with two extended telescopic posts that were attached to both sides of the door and then braced down to the floor. And I thought that was odd, for sure.
Then, an even more unusual discovery.
We started finding bacon, raw bacon that was strewn over the chairs within the kitchen, the backs of the chairs. It was raw. It took some time before I actually was able to identify what it was, but it wasn't rotted. Hadn't been there long. And that really raised some alarms for myself as to what we had here. I had spoken to a few people and they thought, well, maybe it was a tactic that he was trying to employ to confuse the cadaver dogs. Our dogs aren't trained with the use of pork, so it had no effect on the dogs. I've never seen that before.
Some of the stuff he had no answer for, like, for example, the raw bacon. I said, any idea how that got there? He goes, poof, yeah, no idea. I said, you would agree that's a strange place to find raw bacon. And he said, yeah, absolutely. I don't really have an answer for you.
It appeared to me that the house had been cleaned. With infrared and UV light source, we could start seeing some smear marks on the floor and on the walls.
Investigators worried key evidence had been destroyed.
Generally, if there is blood, we'll get a reaction. It'll glow immediately, and the camera will pick up on that. We were getting a ghosting effect. Knowing that time gap, there is quite a bit of a challenge. We know the fact that if there's been a murder within the house, there's a good chance that he has had time to clean the residence.
Police said Leeming's SUV had also been cleaned. And it wasn't a new model, so there was no GPS data of its movements.
So there's a lot of things that were adding up, that were adding more evidence to suggest that they were murdered. We just didn't know where they were.
Investigators were finally able to create a true timeline of Robert Leeming's movements based on CCTV evidence they'd located.
We actually captured Mr. Leeming throwing items into the communal garbage bins.
Those garbage bins were seized by police and would be searched. They also found footage from April 20th of Leeming dumping mulch at his townhouse complex.
The mulch, the cuttings from the paper being found out there, we're finding it in the front yard. We're finding that mulch is containing, I'm not sure if he's trying to hide documentation.
This is when things start taking a turn. So from the CCTV, one of the key ones we found was actually from one of the gas stations. We're able to capture Mr. Leeming filling up a jerry can. But when he actually opens the hatch of his vehicle, under the blanket you can actually see what appeared to be the stock of a gun. Once you see that, things go from, I hope she's alive, to I hope we can find her.
At Calgary Police Headquarters, Robert Leeming was questioned for 24 hours.
I was trying to appeal to the human side of him, to say, hey, listen, like, we have a mom and a little girl out there. You know, it's important for you to share, where are they? It's looking like you're responsible for this. But he was released without charges on that first interview.
Well, this is obviously a very difficult situation. Homicide detectives are working around the clock to help solve this case, and many of these investigators have children as well, so knowing they're dealing with what's considered a double homicide is extremely difficult. Police say the suspect in this case remains a suspect. He was taken into custody at 11 a.m. Thursday. 24 hours later, police officers released him.
Now, Nancy, with police confirming that the man taken into custody yesterday is still the main suspect in the case, can you explain more about why police released him today?
You know, we've seen this in a number of cases in the past, and to be very clear, police say that this suspect remains the primary suspect in this case. However, once somebody is taken into custody, police have 24 hours to either charge that person or let him go. So he has been let go. That does not mean the investigation stops. It doesn't stop. This continues on, and police gather more evidence, and of course we will have more information on that in the coming days.
At that point, we didn't have the evidence to lay a charge, but we felt it necessary to keep tabs on him, so we had our covert surveillance teams following him.
Leeming was spotted near his townhouse complex as forensic crime scenes investigators were inside the home, and Global News tracked him down.
As the search for Jasmine Lovett and her 22-month-old daughter, Aaliyah Sanderson, continues, the man police questioned after their disappearance has been released. Robert Leeming spoke tonight to our Nancy Hixt, who joins us in the newsroom. Nancy?
Robert Leeming confirmed to me that he is being questioned in connection to the suspected double homicide case. Leeming said he was released from custody Friday morning and he spent his day at a local pub. How do you feel about this whole thing? I mean,
terrible, of course.
But to know the police are calling this a homicide, to know that someone has killed a 22-month-old child.
It's crazy.
But you're saying that is not you?
Of course not. Of course not.
So then what happened? Where did she go?
I don't know. If you have tenants, do you keep track of them?
Well, you're in a relationship as well.
Well, we weren't at this time.
Okay, so when was the last time you saw them?
Would have been Thursday around about 7 o'clock on the 18th.
From what we see, you're considered a suspect in a double homicide. So this is your chance to tell us what has transpired.
Yeah, it's pretty serious, right? But who says that they're dead? That's crazy. I don't know where they are, and that's the biggest thing. Is they're, if they were dead, then the CPS would know, right? But they're not. They don't know. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's anything to do with me.
Just watching that interaction, the first instinct that came to my mind was he thinks he's beaten us. He thinks he's smarter than we are, is what I took from it. There was just an arrogance and bravado around him that I think because we released him at that time, he thought he'd gotten away with murdering these two people.
That's when further details about Robert Leeming's history emerged.
Court documents obtained by Global News show the man at the center of the suspected double murder investigation has prior convictions for animal cruelty. Court records also indicate he owned an arsenal of weapons, including 2 handguns, 1 shotgun, and approximately 60 knives. Global News has confirmed Robert Leeming pleaded guilty to 3 charges under the Animal Cruelty Act following an incident near Priddis last May. Did something happen with your family pet?
No.
Or was there something that you have an explanation for about something that happened with a pet?
No. No comment at this time.
But if somebody is capable of harming an animal, I mean, that obviously leaves us skeptical.
No, it doesn't. It has nothing to do with it.
There's a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of things that we ran into again where it just doesn't make sense. And the more you look at it as a roommate or as a friend, more and more stuff is pushing up against Mr. Leeming as being not truthful with us about what he knows. You're dealing with a very volatile man who believes he's already gotten away with it in his mind.
I guess I'll just wait in the pub until I hear something.
Family, friends, and complete strangers gathered at a vigil for Jasmine and Aaliyah.
Aaliyah was a wonderful blessing in the family. She was a really happy baby, always happy to see Nana. She was really an amazing baby. It's a huge loss.
Bye-bye. Jasmine was a really good mother. That's all she wanted to be in life as a mother, and she and Aaliyah were completely inseparable. Aaliyah, she took after Jasmine quite a bit, even in all of the small things, for sure. She was like a little angel, and she had such an amazing spirit. She had a really, really cute laugh.
This corner residence is where Jasmine and Aaliyah live with Mr. Leeming. The garbage disposal area where we got the 3 dumpsters out of.
CCTV footage captured Robert Leeming tossing garbage into dumpsters after Jasmine and Aaliyah disappeared. The Forensic Crime Scenes Unit had the daunting task of searching them.
I found a purse with prescriptions labeled Jasmine Lovett. So personnel start noticing some firearm components. So the condition of the firearm, it was in 3 pieces. The butt of the firearm, as well as the handle, that was broken into a piece, and the end of it was melted or burned. The second part was a forend that was also burnt at the end, and then there was a small piece, a Ruger 22 laser. I found pretty much a clump of shredded paper, and I started digging through and noticed something very distinctive. It was a navy blue and gold emblem shredded, but it was partially shredded. So I decided to start picking out the pieces of the shredded paper, and I saw the eye set as well as a name, Jasmine Lovett, and determined that it was a Canadian passport.
Like the passport and those type of things that you shouldn't be throwing away if somebody's alive.
This is looking bad.
It's starting to look very bad.
Evidence was building against Robert Leeming.
I was contacted by Mr. Leeming's family. The police were now looking at Mr. Leeming as a suspect. Despite Mr. Leeming being suspect number 1 and perhaps maybe the only suspect, the police were not able to move on it. They didn't have enough to charge him because, first and foremost, they didn't have any bodies. And without the bodies, it's very difficult to know if this is a murder or something else. Or whether Ms. Lovett and her child had just disappeared on their own. We tried calling, sent a written communication over.
But days went by and Leeming didn't contact his lawyer. Then, on May 5th, nearly 3 weeks after the mother and toddler disappeared,
Mr. Leeming was crossing the street not far from his house and was approached by 2 strangers.
the 2 men recognized Leeming from his interview with Global News.
These 2 so-called bikers had some physical pieces of evidence. For example, the shredded passport of Miss Lovett that Mr. Leeming had shredded a day or so earlier and had thrown it out into the garbage. That didn't just pique Mr. Leeming's interest, it convinced him that these people had something that he would be interested in and took him down the road of believing that they could help him. And so he, in short order, trusted them.
Though he was a bit suspicious at first, Leeming didn't realize that his new friends were actually undercover police officers.
If I ask if you're cops, you have to tell me, right?
Yes. We need to find them, and that's ultimately the biggest goal is, again, holding that sliver of hope that they might still be alive. Is if they're alive, we need to know. And if he doesn't want to talk to us, then maybe this technique will work.
Do you want to know why they're so pissed off with me? I put bacon in my basement because it's pork. It's the closest thing to people in the way that dogs react to them.
There were different things offered to him. You know, we can help dispose of evidence, we can help you get away. There were different things like that offered. But the condition was always, we need to know what we're dealing with. So these 2 new friends he had made said that in order for us to help, we need to know what's going on. We need, if there's bodies, we need bodies. If we're going to dispose of bodies, you know, we need to get them to be able to dispose of them. So things like that, I suspect, convinced Mr. Leeming that these were not only trustworthy people who were going to help him, but he needed to take them to where the bodies were.
That's when Robert Leeming finally opened up.
So you head towards McKissick, like you're going to the ski hill. You carry on going for probably about 20 clicks until you see a gas station on the left. You go a little bit further up from there, you can't miss it. You keep going on Highway 40, and as the road turns up the hill, there's you kind of have to look backwards, and there is a little maintenance road. You need a truck to get up there.
Was Robert Leeming finally telling the truth? Would this information lead police to Jasmine and Aaliyah?
We are throwing a lot into this basket. Once you get out into the wilderness, you have the animals, you have just the sheer ability to try to find somebody out in the wilderness is near impossible. You know, the main thing we want to do is find Jasmine and Aaliyah.
Welcome back. Nearly 3 weeks after a young mother and her daughter disappeared, it was looking like they might never be found. But behind the scenes, a carefully crafted plan carried out by undercover officers finally solved the mystery. Here now is Nancy Hicks with the conclusion of Vanished.
Robert Leeming took his new friends deep into the wild and forested mountains of Kananaskis country, less than 5 hours after they met.
Yeah, so it should be just around the tree and then off to our left. Mr. Leeming guided us down here until we were able to find Jasmine and Aaliyah. This changes everything. This is the point where we now know that both Jasmine and Aaliyah are deceased. We know that Mr. Leeming's the one who takes us to the bodies. We have zero doubt that Mr. Leeming's the one responsible for them being there, but we just don't know how they were deceased at this time. We also had sent our crime scene members out to the Kananaskis area to start processing that scene.
It's about an hour, 30 minutes from the city, but it's in an area where clearly the grizzly population habitats that and frequents that area. It's at that time of year it was very, very cold and still going through a thaw process. When we first arrived, there was a high sense of concern for our welfare as well, because with park wardens being present, they told us that they were going to provide us lethal overwatch, because there was a female sow grizzly 30 meters within the area with her 2 cubs. She obviously honed in on the smells of the decomposition that was occurring.
Investigators were also met with the scent of gasoline, as officers identified 3 separate crime scenes: a burn site where evidence had been destroyed, a culvert where some items had been hidden, and then the shallow graves where the bodies were located.
It's such an isolated location, heavily forested, with indentations in the ground that were almost perfect for preservation of the body. I had requested from the arson unit an accelerant dog from the Calgary Fire Department to attend the scene so that they could help us with identifying what areas within our large scene contained accelerant. She identified the fire pit was one, and of course the location of where the bodies were found was another.
Investigators recovered the charred remains of a child seat and stroller, shoes, and a partially burned children's book.
There was what appeared to me to be transfer stains, blood transfer stains in the book. The submission of the book provided no DNA profile, and again, because of the heat.
Police also found the same type of mulch Leeming had dumped outside at his townhouse complex.
This particular mulch contained shredded paper. The same sort of mulch that we found in his front yard contained shredded paper.
So we learned the mulch was actually Mr. Leeming's attempt to hide the smell of bodies being transported.
A heart-wrenching scene unfolding in Kananaskis. Police believe they found the bodies of missing mother Jasmine Lovett and her 22-month-old daughter Aaliyah Sanderson. Nancy, a devastating day for the victims' families and for our city.
It is absolutely heartbreaking. This was the worst possible outcome, to know that the bodies of Jasmine and Aaliyah have been recovered. Even though this has been considered a double homicide for some time, I think everyone just held out some hope. So really just devastating news.
So the autopsy revealed that Jasmine had received multiple blunt force injuries to the head, as well as a gunshot wound to the back of the head. And Aaliyah had also received multiple blunt force injuries to the head.
Robert Leeming was arrested and charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder.
What was different about him is in the first interview he had a full head of hair and a beard, and in this interview he had shaved his head and shaved his beard. And his demeanor was a complete reversal from the first interview. He had no comment to make about anything. I presented him evidence, additional evidence, tried to appeal to his human side as to why this had to happen, and he had nothing to say about it. Yeah, he's cold. He's a monster. I saw no remorse from him whatsoever.
By now, Leeming had finally contacted high-profile criminal defense lawyer Balfour Durr and realized his new friends were undercover police officers.
I spoke to Mr. Leeming within probably hours of him being arrested. You know, whenever we encounter one of these cases where someone makes a statement to the police, either because he knows they're police officers or because he doesn't know they're police officers, but undercover officers have fooled him, you know, it just goes contrary to everything that a defense counsel tells an accused, which is keep your mouth shut. You have no friends. The walls have ears. Like, don't say anything to anybody about anything. Yet people cannot help it. They tend to talk.
In the fall of 2021, almost 2.5 years to the day after Jasmine and Aaliyah vanished, their loved ones prepared to learn disturbing details of their deaths at a double murder trial heard by a judge alone.
We are trying to move forward and think of only positive things and happy memories and keep their spirits close and move forward that way. But it's been very difficult. I never heard her first word. I just really miss them.
On that first day, there was an unexpected development. With the evidence stacked against Robert Leeming, he pleaded guilty to killing Jasmine Lovett, but not guilty to killing Aaliyah.
It became apparent to me, and of course Mr. Leeming, that his guilt would clearly be proven in relation to Miss Lovett. He said he just flew into a rage, and there happened to be a hammer on the kitchen counter nearby. He said he took the hammer and hit her in the head as she was starting to turn away from him. He said he hit her hard, hit her at least 2 times. She fell to the floor, but she wasn't immediately dead. She was lying there, obviously in distress. So he went to the garage, took his .22 rifle, came in, shot her once, just behind the ear, and according to the forensic pathologist, that would have caused instant death.
The trial continued for the second-degree murder of Aaliyah.
The prosecution theory was that the mother was killed, then the daughter. And the daughter was killed so that he could make a getaway. He could say that they both left so that he could cover his tracks and they wouldn't have any bodies left to be able to pin him with the murder. We have a dead mother, a dead 22-month-old child. The mother has been beat with something, a hammer, shot in the head. Bodies are hidden away, disposed of out in the bush, and the accused person is overtly to the public proclaiming his innocence, trying to cover his tracks. None of it looked good. Like what happens in most of these cases where someone's committed a crime and try to cover it up, it's impossible. It's not like the movies. It's very difficult to think of everything that the police have at their disposal. He was covering his tracks and at the same time was speaking to media, to reporters, saying that, I don't know where they've gone, I don't know anything about the disappearance. He said that to the police. The biggest piece of evidence against him was, of course, that he took undercover police officers to where the bodies were. Who else would have known where the bodies were except the person who put them there?
And then Leeming testified in his own defense.
The defense was that the child died by way of an accidental fall off some stairs as she was a little toddler, hit her head, and it was head injuries that caused her death. The judge found that Mr. Leeming's explanation was inconsistent with what the forensic pathologist said about how the death was caused to the child. In the end, the judge found Mr. Leeming guilty of second-degree murder of the child, and along with that, his guilty plea to the mother meant that he was guilty of 2 counts of second-degree murder.
Robert Leeming was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 22 years.
The judge, when he sentenced Mr. Leeming, said that he had breached the trust that Miss Lovett had put into him, that she loved him, and he committed the worst type of domestic abuse imaginable. In relation to the child, the judge said that Mr. Leeming had again breached the trust of this child who was loved and who felt safe in his arms, and yet he would murder the child.
And 22 years without eligibility for parole is really good. Obviously, 200 years is not going to bring them back, but we're pleased. We feel that justice has been served, justice for Jasmine and Aaliyah.
It's been very difficult, especially the fact that, it's been such a long process for my family and I, but we're just really grateful today to have the closure that we do, considering that some families don't get this type of closure. We're just extremely grateful to be able to move forward.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thanks to everybody who worked on the case. Everybody. There's no explanation for me, and look at all the lies. Can't believe a word.
Leeming doesn't react, so it's hard to know if there's any remorse. I feel like there is none. I do wish I did know a little bit more about why he did the things that he did, but we're not going to get that, and we have to be satisfied with what we do know. Yeah. And I think that the Crown, or the prosecutors, did an amazing job, and the Calgary Police Service as well.
That question continues to haunt everyone involved, including the investigators.
We don't have a why. We don't have really a good idea of what happened to have this all come to fruition, so it's hard that way.
Deep in the woods in Kananaskis, there's a special plaque police created and put up to both remember and honor the mother and daughter whose lives were so senselessly stolen.
It's tragic for the family, and it's so sad that it had to end this way. This is one I'll never forget. Like this, I'll keep with me till the day I die.
Jasmine and Aaliyah's family has worked to raise both awareness and money for victims of domestic abuse, donating thousands of dollars to the Calgary Women's Emergency Shelter in their honor. Thank you for joining us tonight on Crime Beat. I'm Anthony Robart. Want more episodes of Crime Beat? Listen to the Crime Beat podcast now for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. And for past episodes of Crime Beat, go to the Global TV app, visit globaltv.com, or check out our Crime Beat YouTube page.
This program is rated 14 plus and contains scenes of violence and mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
I think I was shot. I'm dying.
Okay, we've got help on the way, okay? We've already got the call.
Third floor, shot fired. Third floor. 10th floor. Third floor, shots fired.
Just an absolute chaotic scene here in Vaughan. Police believe that the shooter was going from one unit to another.
People feel that what happened here is simply beyond comprehension.
Welcome to Crime Beat. I'm Anthony Robart. Tonight it was the deadliest mass casualty event in the history of Ontario's York region outside of Toronto. 5 people gunned down in cold blood in the sanctity of their own homes. Now, for those who survived and still carry the memories, it was a night that would forever alter the course of their lives. Here now is Catherine McDonald with A Knock at the Door.
It was Sunday night. It was right before Christmas time. So we'd all just started our shift for the night. And then the call came in just after 7 p.m.
Dispatch 4155, 4145, 4625, 4425 for an active shooter in the 429235 Jane Street. Its building is tower number 2.
I'd pulled it up on my computer screen in the car, and highlighted with stars was active shooter, which is the first time I've seen that.
Also working that night over at headquarters was Mark Hilliker.
On December 18th, I was the acting inspector in the Real-Time Operations Center. We are the triage center for all 911 calls. The first call came in from someone in the penthouse.
911, do you need police, fire, ambulance?
Starting at about 7:20 p.m., a caller reported that a shooter was in the building and had shot a woman. After the complainant left, the 911 caller heard another gunshot.
The suspect is gone. There's a female that's been shot. Be advised, the male has a revolver as per complainant.
Right away, it was very apparent that it was an active shooter and that that shooter was on the loose, on a rampage, and needed to be stopped. The fear within the building, I can't imagine.
Police, fire, ambulance.
The entire team was now on high alert.
Hey, sir, where is the shooter? Okay, did you see the gun at all?
One thing they teach us in training, every time you hear a gunshot, that could be someone's life. The longer you wait, the more lives could be lost.
I've been shot.
You've been shot?
Yeah, I've been.
Okay, where are you? What's your address?
I'm sorry.
Tell me your address.
With every call, more details were revealed about the horror unfolding at the luxury condominium building.
RTOC Staff Sergeant Hilliker. We're being inundated with calls for service for weapons calls at the same location of people dying, people deceased, multiple gunshots being heard. We also receive phone calls from others who aren't in the building, but the people in the building are calling their family members saying there's shots being fired.
911, do you need police, fire, ambulance?
I want you to stay hidden as best you can, okay? Do you think he's in your apartment?
911 call number 3. A third call came in at 7:22 p.m. A man requested an ambulance for his wife, who had been shot. The complainant had a revolver.
I need fire ambulance. My wife's been shot.
911 call number 4. The fourth call came in at 7:25 p.m. A caller asked for police because someone was shooting. The complainant had gone to another specified apartment after she closed her door. The caller had heard gunshots.
I remember pulling up and seeing all the police lights and police cars on James Street. When we responded, we weren't quite sure how many shooters there were. We didn't know what weapons were being used besides a gun. We didn't know if it would be assault rifle, handgun, shotgun. When I actually entered the building, you could hear the audible fire alarm going off. Any active shooter incident, whoever gets there first goes in. You don't wait for anybody, you don't wait for a partner. You go in and you deal with the threat.
For units descending, elevators is not working, fire alarm's going off.
It's very typical in your active shooters that they pull the fire alarm to muffle the sound of the gunshots, but that also causes some challenges as people want to leave the building, then there's more targets for your suspect to shoot.
There was 2 stairwells on each side of the building. Any officer that arrived just picked a stairwell to go to.
We had no information as to where the suspect was. Shootings and the killings started on the penthouse, or the reports of them anyway, so we would send contact teams in, starting on the ground floor and moving up. And the minute you hear the gunfire, then you go towards the sound of the gunfire.
We got a brief description from the victim. We knew it was an older gentleman. Again, at that time, we didn't know how many shooters there were. A lot of the residents in the building had no idea what was going on. We had to confront everybody that we encountered just to make sure that they weren't armed.
At that point, I'm listening to the communications air, so I'm hearing the officers and what they're doing. They're airing where they're going.
Delta 403 showing up on badge. Log me on, please.
10-4.
And so the sergeant happens to be on one of the contact teams. He's going floor to floor looking for the suspect.
The sergeant agreed to speak with us on the condition that we not reveal his identity due to privacy concerns. He has never spoken publicly about that night.
And then another officer said, Sarge, we have to make sure we go floor to floor to make sure that he's not anywhere around. So we started heading up to the 2nd floor and then up to the 3rd floor, and that's when I saw the suspect.
The sergeant comes across the air saying he's come across the suspect on the 3rd floor who's armed with a handgun.
And I saw a gentleman on the 3rd floor near your apartment. He was standing there trying to fiddle with the door, trying to get it open. I guess we called out to him to make sure he went back into his apartment. It was the suspect. He turns around and he says, "Oh, police. Police." He had a firearm in his hand, his right hand. And I says, "Please don't move. Please don't move." And I pointed my firearm at him. And he was screaming and yelling over the sound of the fire alarm going off. Yelling at me, I couldn't hear what he was saying. I just told him to stop. Drop the gun. Drop the gun.
10-4, 6, I got on the floor. Drop the gun, drop it.
What's the room number?
Sir, drop the gun.
Someone give me a location?
So at that pause there, my heart's skipping a beat.
It feels like time stops, actually. Everything goes slow.
And then he hits his officer needs assistance button. You can hear that on the air. The alarm goes off, and then it's silence. And that's the nerving part for everyone, because we don't know what's going on. And usually silence on a critical call, action's on, and we don't know who's being shot, who is shot, who's injured, and what's happening.
I try and talk to him. So I tried to say, why are you doing this? What are you doing? Drop the gun, please, drop the gun. He said, no, I don't want to. I'm not going to drop the gun. He seemed angry. There was no reasoning with him at all. And so I was ready for him to attempt to fire at me.
4 shots fired. We need a location.
10-4, shots fired.
Welcome back to Crime Beat. An active shooter is on the loose in a high-rise condo building in Vaughan, Ontario, north of Toronto. An officer on the 3rd floor has found himself face-to-face with the shooter. We now return to Catherine McDonald and a knock at the door.
3rd floor, shot fired. 3rd floor.
10-4, 3rd floor, shots fired.
She was right in the middle of the hallway, standing there, staring at me. I was probably about 15 to 20 feet away from him, and I backed up a bit toward the entrance. If I had to leave quickly or not. He wouldn't listen to any of that. He was just yelling. I don't know what he was yelling. Moaning. And he raised his hand toward me. The handgun, and I shot 4 shots. 3 or 4 times I shot. 4 shots.
I got one down.
Male party down?
10-4. Everyone shot 3 times.
Male shot 3 times, unknown injuries. Is he awake and breathing?
And then he comes across the air advising that he has shot the suspect and that he needs additional assistance.
When I shot him, I saw the bullet hit his shoulder, above his chest area. And then he turned and probably fired it 1 or 2 more times. I don't know if I hit him. The autopsy says I hit him twice. I shot 4 shots, but I hit him twice. And he stumbled up to the side against the wall and he moaned and crumbled to the ground and went on his side. And I said it went down.
One down. I'm okay.
Can someone confirm if any officers have been injured?
She's trying to probe for more information because he's there at this point alone.
So other officers came down the hallway. I saw my firearm pointed at the male who was down on the ground waiting for them to come by, and then I put my firearm away, turned him over, and we started doing CPR. I did CPR for about 25 seconds, and then a female officer took over.
And I remember walking around the corner and I saw the gun on the ground, and then I saw the suspect laying on his back, and officers were actually attempting CPR on him. Like, it had happened so recent that when I actually entered the 3rd floor, you could still smell the gunpowder.
And for the injured male, is he awake and breathing?
Yes, 46, CPR started.
Okay, it's 46, he's at 9.
So the officers actually picked up the suspect and carried him down the stairs out to the paramedics that were waiting out front.
I was on the way back to the station, and they said he was deceased over the air.
He did have ammunition in his pocket, so we believe there may have been more people that he was targeting.
That's what I found out later. He was hunting. He was at that door, trying to get into that door to shoot that person inside behind that unit.
So I'm calling the deputy chief to advise them of everything that has transpired, and as I'm talking to her, we get another shooting on the 5th floor within the same building.
4631, just to confirm, we have an additional call coming in from penthouse number advising they can hear crossfire.
What was happening was that neighbors were coming out of their units after hearing gunfire and then silence. They would then discover their neighbors murdered. They would call us, but say it had just occurred. An additional challenge was that people were being shot in similar numbered units.
4216, we found another victim inside 16.
10-4. 10-4, another victim found inside 16. Confirming that's 16, not 16.
We started finding the victims that had been shot. There was an officer that was with the security desk of the condo building, and we started providing unit numbers as to where the victims were located, and that's when we started to piece together that they were all condo board members.
But as that's going on, we get a call on Buttermill, but it's Highway 7 and Jane. And at this point, the suspect from that shooting is dead for 11 minutes.
Dispatch to 1135 and 1535 as well as PS16. If you can start making your way down to Vaughan to 7.
So we get a second shooting at a condo building at Highway 7 and Jane in that area, where the information was that the penthouse exterior windows were shot out, whether that was a sniper or someone with a long gun or whatnot, and the occupant and the owner to that unit was a condo board member. The parallels are identical, and the suspect description of the second shooting was different. And so that, for me, is when this whole call gets far more complex, because we now have multiple suspects, multiple locations, a coordinated attack on an identified group, and could be expanding elsewhere.
The complainant just keeps saying that he heard a loud bang and his windows are broken.
While en route to the call, we did hear on our police radio that there was another call coming in.
And be advised that the first weapons call that's ongoing in Vaughan was also at a condo building.
And what we heard was that there's been a shooting at another high-rise condo in Vaughan. You know, you're just thinking of, okay, how big this could be.
Described as 5'7" tall and wearing a black jacket.
Delta 211 District 11.
Thankfully, it was very quickly determined that there was no shooting and the two calls were not related.
It wasn't penthouse number 10, it was actually townhouse number 10, which made more sense, so it's on the ground floor. It was a person who used a rock to smash the window. It had nothing to do with the fact that he was a condo board member.
Having confirmed that this other incident was unrelated, Homicide Detective Dave Gill could focus his attention on the scene at the Bellaria condo residences. Upon arriving, he was briefed with the latest.
A lone shooter had been shot by the police and he was pronounced deceased at the time. Our officers had identified a unit that was within that condo building where this male lived.
Then you kind of have to start thinking if his condo is maybe booby-trapped or if there's something waiting for police once we get into his unit.
They had cleared that unit, and I was told that our emergency response team was going door to door to clear the rest of the building to make sure everybody was safe and there was no other shooters.
There was no further shots fired on the call, and we had been on the call for a significant amount of time. So we were satisfied that there's no more shooters in the building.
So that is the information that's given to me, and this is around 8:30 when I get to the scene.
4145, we're going up to the victim first. 10-4, she's been shot in the mouth. And we do have EMS staging at Rutherford and Jane.
Police had also finally made their way up to Doreen and John DeNino's top floor penthouse suite.
I need to know if the police are outside my door or it's the gunman.
Please exit with your hands up, okay?
Please exit with my hands up?
Yeah.
My door is stuck, sir.
Hands up,
Hold
sir.
on. Okay. My wife's been shot. Where is she? How many people?
Can you tell me about that night?
That evening, it was just a regular Sunday. We had some guests over. The fire alarm started to sound.
John and Doreen DeNino lived in the condo on the top floor.
It was near Christmas and we had our friends over. The alarm started going off.
We didn't know if there's a real incident or fire going on. Within a couple of minutes, we heard what sounded like a bang. We weren't sure what it was.
Because of what happened next, at the time of this interview, Doreen did not want to show her face on camera.
We heard a little bang or explosion. He said, maybe something is wrong. We normally get the security letting us know what's going on, stay in your apartment or make your way down, but nothing. And then I heard a bang at the door.
And then someone was pounding on our door. My wife went to answer the door. I asked her to feel around the door frame, make sure that it wasn't hot.
And it was pretty loud, the banging. I looked in the peephole, but I saw what I thought was a young boy with a hoodie on. And I thought it was maybe one of our family members. So I just opened it. As soon as I saw his face, I went, oh my God.
And so she opened the door. And within a microsecond, the gunman lifted his gun out of his sleeve and shot my wife.
Yeah, he raised his arm, and all I remember is just swinging my head back and falling to the ground. I just kept seeing blood everywhere.
After my wife was injured, the gunman pointed the gun at me. In the same fashion that he lifted the gun to shoot my wife, he did the same in my direction. There was nowhere for us to hide or refuge, and I don't know why, but it never went off. And he never fired at me. We went into fight or flight mode. I reacted and threw everything I could at the gunman. Crystal vases and glasses and bottles.
And then he ran out?
My friend, she pulled me away because I think my foot was holding the door.
After our friend moved my wife out of harm's way, she actually got in between myself and the gunman and ran to the door and slammed it shut.
I was fully alert. The blood was just coming out of my mouth, and I remember a tooth, and I went, oh my God, I lost a tooth, and that's all I was thinking. I just kept seeing blood everywhere, and it took a while for the police to come up because they had to walk up. They had to run up, the floors.
Doreen was slipping in and out of consciousness. and she needed to get to a hospital fast.
So we're with the victim. She's conscious, breathing, and responsive. She's a gunshot wound to her mouth.
The bullet had gone in through my jaw and exited the back of my head. It actually hit our screen door and shattered all the glass, so it was in and out. I had one of the officers just hold me and check that I wasn't bleeding from the back, but after that I don't remember a lot.
Well, we are learning more about the victims of the mass shooting in a Vaughan condominium Sunday night. Catherine McDonald has more on their stories.
I'm still waiting to get a hold of one of the board members. Marilyn Iafredi knew Rita Camilleri and her husband Vittorio Panza. On Tuesday, Iafredi learned 57-year-old Camilleri, who was on the board of directors of the Bellaria Residences, Tower 2, and 79-year-old Panza were two of the 5 people killed here in a shooting rampage Sunday night.
God bless them. They were such advocates for this building. They were always ensuring that everything was right.
Iafredi, the councillor for the area, said Camilleri worked hard to make the condo a better place to live, as did Navid Dada, a 59-year-old real estate agent, also a member of the condo board. Russell Manick, 75, was a former member of the board. He and his 71-year-old wife, Lorraine Manick, were also killed. The Manick children told us Mom and Dad instilled honesty, integrity, a zest for life, passion, truth, loyalty, compassion, love, warmth, strength, and respect in our family. We loved our parents then. We love our parents now. We love them eternally. To this day, Rita Camilleri's family continues to request privacy. But according to police who spoke with them at the time, Rita was a daughter, sister, and most caring aunt. Vittorio Panza's family told us how much joy his children and grandchildren brought him, and said he was loved by all. And we've learned that Navid Dada was a devoted son and brother who worked hard to stay connected to his family back in Pakistan. They were devastated that they could not get visas in time to attend his funeral.
We report victims as if they're numbers, and, they're not numbers. These are real human beings. These are real people who had families that loved them.
We don't talk enough about the victims. And it's often the victims that are left behind and their families are left behind to pick up the pieces.
Not only were they residents and my neighbors, they were my friends.
John Danino is president of the condo board. Danino was at home in his penthouse apartment Sunday night and saw his 66-year-old wife get shot.
One makes you want to believe, or makes you think, that because they were targeted, that I was an intended target as well.
We do have evidence that suggests that the suspect came across another resident in a hallway during his shooting spree, and he told the person to keep going. So we believe for that reason that he was only targeting the victims who are the current board members or the past board members or their families. As an investigator, we want to kind of start now backtracking, hey, where was this suspect before he started shooting people? Police did not find any sort of manifesto during our search of his unit. There was no sort of a final letter that he left behind. So we tried to get the video from the interior and exterior of the building as soon as possible and start reviewing that video. He lived on the first floor, and he's seen pacing back and forth in the lobby area. We believe he spoke to a security guard during that time between 5 and 6 o'clock. And then it is not until 7:02 that we see him get on an elevator from a second floor, and he got off on the 14th floor. From the 14th floor, we believe he took the stairs to the 15th floor. And at 7:15 p.m., a fire alarm is pulled on the 15th floor, which results in the elevators no longer working. So then we believe he took the stairs to the 16th floor. On the 16th floor, what we understand happened is he goes to one of the units where he shoots and kills 2 victims. From there, he moved down the hallway to another unit on the 16th floor, and he shoots and kills another victim, shooting through the door.
911, can you please fire an ambulance?
Yeah, I think I got shot.
Sir, I can't hear what you're saying.
923 Bartle.
The gentleman that was shot through the door was able to call 911 after he had been shot.
I'm dying.
Okay, we've got help on the way, okay? We've already got the call. Okay? Okay? Stay on the line, sir. Stay on the line.
So he shot Naveed from outside the door. You can imagine somebody knocks your door, you are inside. A person who gets a bullet in the chest, and that bullet, it then went up to the neck. That is the reason why he died. But you see, when he fell, he was still brave enough and he was still courageous enough, and he still had that sense that he should call 911, because this man, I'm sure his plans was to shoot many more people, much more than 6.
We reached Naveed Dada's brother in Karachi, Pakistan. He felt strongly that Canadians hear his brother's final words.
This is awareness. If you want to show it or if you want to hear it, I would agree with him, yes. There's no secrecy, nothing. He saved life of many other people.
Can you talk at all? The person who shot you, are they still there?
No.
No?
Naveed Dada, my brother, was a very lively person. We grew up together because he was the youngest. Then he went abroad for studies. After that, he wanted to go to Canada.
Naveed always wanted to serve his community and help those in need. And what we learned from his family was that was one of the reasons he was on the condo board.
He was a very good man. He was a very thorough gentleman, very caring, very loving. He didn't deserve this.
Sir, are you there? Sir, are you okay?
Anybody who called into the police to alert them, anywhere from 7:20 till the suspect was shot and killed at 7:28, definitely helped save lives. So from going back to the 16th floor, the evidence indicates that he then moved to another floor and then knocks on the door, and there's an interaction where he shoots the victim. The victim thankfully survived. We believe from that floor he moves to the 5th floor. We believe there's an interaction at the door and 2 people are shot inside that unit and they both die.
All the victims were near the front door of their residence, shot right at the entrance of their doorway, which indicated that maybe it was a surprise to them that somebody had knocked on the door, maybe they knew the person and they opened the door and unfortunately were shot.
They were executed. They were shot from close range. The evidence suggests that none of these people stood any chance. And then he ends up on the 3rd floor where he comes across a police officer. It's hard to say what was going on in his mind, but he obviously was given a chance to surrender and he did not. There will be no criminal trial. But that does not mean that we don't owe it to the victim's family to conduct a thorough investigation to see if we can at least get a motive, or the reasons why somebody would do what Mr. Villi did here.
Hi, my name is Francesco Villi. They want me dead. And this is not right. They can take my body. Tell this. Mr. Villi says you can take his body, but never his soul and spirit.
And I think what made this case especially chilling for a lot of residents is that they knew this suspected shooter. He lived among them. He had interactions with them for years. What else have we learned about Francesco Villi today?
Francesco Villi, age 73, he was well known to people here. He was
For those of us reporting on this story, with each passing hour, there were new revelations being confirmed about the man who had committed these horrible acts of violence.
Today is December 14, 2022. I'm a dying man. It's shortly before 3 p.m. This is no justice. Where is justice?
From Twitter to Facebook, Francesco Villi was a prolific social media poster.
Why you don't fix the electrical room under this floor that it takes more than half of my unit? I don't sleep at night.
Complaining about noises in the electrical room beneath his first-floor condo suite. The 73-year-old Villi had been in a dispute with the condo board here for about 5 years.
He was complaining of mold, he was complaining of air quality, the noise, and his complaints were basically that the living conditions in his unit essentially weren't livable.
2017, I don't know where rest and sleep is.
At that time, it was a $15,000 repair to have some isolation pads put in to fix the noise.
John Santoro thinks his life might have been spared because he didn't oppose Vili.
I was lucky that I was trying to help him.
My life has been destroyed systematically.
As time went on, Vili's posts became more ominous and threatening.
Very soon, all you blind people, you can stay in darkness for eternity.
In November 2018, the Condo Corporation started court proceedings against Vili, which led to an order in 2019 for him to stop harassing residents.
According to court documents, in 2018, the board sought a restraining order against Vili for his, quote, allegedly threatening, abusive, intimidating, and harassing behavior.
He didn't stop and was found in contempt of court and fined $30,000 in September 2021. But the harassment continued, and in a last desperate move, the board looked to have him evicted in a hearing scheduled the day after he went on his shooting rampage.
He's just like, I hate them. He used to just be against everybody.
Many have stories of Vili making racial slurs and making them feel uncomfortable.
I got scared of him. So whenever I saw him, I would evade.
The Manick family told us that in 2022, the harassment had gotten so bad that their parents no longer used the stairwells, and their mother avoided being in the underground parkade alone.
So all these complaints were brought forward to the condo, and police had been called for some of these disputes in the past. The police reports we have on file are from 2018 to 2022. One of them was unrelated, it was just a traffic infraction, but the other 6 were from Mr. Vili or they were from somebody from the condo board.
Although there were no calls in that final month leading up to the killings, York Regional Police was aware of the situation.
So when police are called to any sort of dispute or almost any call, it is normal for the police to conduct a firearms check to see if the person involved is a licensed firearm holder. I can tell you that police were aware that Mr. Vili owned firearms when we responded to any of these dispute calls. The weapon that was used in this crime was a Beretta handgun. He got his firearms license in 1998, and in 2019 he purchased this handgun that was used in this shooting. So the gun that he used was legally owned by Mr. Vili. During the execution of our search warrant in his unit, we also learned that he had a safe, and in that safe we found 4 long guns that he legally owned as well.
Getting a permit is designed to be difficult. Criminal record checks and references are required. But when the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights asked the government how many of those references were checked in 2020, the government said just 10% were. And when someone renews their license after 5 years, there's no requirement to provide references, the government said.
Because as a legal gun owner for well over 20 years, I've never had my references called. I've been a reference on many applications. I've never been called.
So the police does have authority under the Section 117 of the Criminal Code to seize firearms and to ask for a firearms hearing in court to say that, hey, this person should no longer own a firearm. But the police have to have the grounds to say, hey, not only is this person a harm to themselves or a harm to others, but we had no reports where he threatened anybody with a firearm or threatened to use a firearm. And I can tell you that during all these incidents when the police were called, Mr. Vili was never apprehended under the Mental Health Act, nor was he ever charged under the Criminal Code for any criminal offense.
Usually active shooters are cowards. They either kill themselves or get into a confrontation with the police to have the police kill them.
What's referred to as suicide by a cop. Sometime during his crime spree, he made up his mind that he was not going to go out live.
And that, of course, triggered the SIU's jurisdiction. And once we had an officer who had caused the death, there's now statutory obligation on this office to conduct a criminal investigation.
The complainant was attempting to gain access to a unit when he was alerted to the subject official's presence behind him. The officer having called out, "Hey!"
The officer called out to the individual. The individual eventually turned to face the officer, and it was at that point that the officer saw a firearm in the individual's right hand.
At the sight of the gun, the officer leveled his firearm at the complainant, ordering him to drop the weapon and remain still. The complainant made it clear he was not going to do that, telling the officer to shoot him. There was that exchange, that verbal exchange, put the gun down, put the gun down. The individual responded, shoot me, shoot me. Who knows what was going on in his mind at that point in time? What really matters is the conduct. The officer had every reason to believe that his life was in danger at that moment. We considered potential resort to some other weapon, for example, a taser in those circumstances, but really it was only a firearm response that was reasonable in the circumstances. So the training is to eliminate that threat, and the best way to do that is to make sure you hit your target. Aiming at a limb is not something that officers are trained to do, because when you fire your weapon, you're only allowed to do so when you believe you're faced with a lethal threat.
You believe he was going to kill you?
Oh yeah. He didn't care. He's ready to shoot. Would have been great if he would have dropped the gun and I could arrest him and place him in handcuffs. It would have been awesome. It didn't happen. You always try to make sense of it when you kill somebody. It's hard to do. It's not normal to kill somebody. You're not trained to kill somebody. You're trained to protect people. And in the instance I was in, I had to protect people by killing somebody.
Welcome back to Crime Beats. 5 people are dead, another in hospital, after a condo resident went door to door, killing his neighbors in cold blood. Just a month earlier, the shooter, Francesco Villi, had demanded a meeting with his city councillor over ongoing complaints about his unit. Here now is Catherine McDonald with the conclusion of a knock at the door.
This is the dedication from Vaughan Council, this memorial space in loving memory of the 5 innocent residents who lost their lives during the December 18, 2022 shooting. Around here you can see that we got 5 benches, and each of them is dedicated to the 5 people that were killed.
The memorial was dedicated in early July, less than 7 months after the tragedy took place.
If you look east of here, what you see is the actual building where all this took place.
But when the counselor heard about the shooting, it was not the first time he had heard of the shooter. A month before the shooting, he had just won the election when his office was contacted by a man introducing himself as Francesco Villi.
I remember telling him, I'm happy to talk to you on the telephone, let me know what your issues are. And he said, no, you gotta come to my condo because I gotta show you something in my condo. He wouldn't take no for an answer. I told him, okay, I'm coming. And so I arrived there, we shook hands, we talked, and I said, okay, he said, what is the issue, show me. So he came inside. He was aggressive, he was loud, and so at a certain point I raised my voice and I said, you better, otherwise I'm leaving. He felt that his unit was not built properly, that mistakes were made. I did go to his bed and I did look under the bed and on the side, and I didn't see any lighting, I didn't hear any noise whatsoever. He was complaining about management, he was complaining about his lawyer. I mean, everybody seemed in his mind to have done something terrible to him. He just was a very sad person, a person who felt that nobody cared, a person who felt that nobody was listening to him.
The family members of the gunman responsible for the province's deadliest mass shooting in modern history now speaking out about their estranged father, writing in a statement that he was controlling and had a history of domestic abuse that left the rest of the family suffering. They say he behaved aggressively and possessed a Jekyll and Hyde type personality.
We believe mental health did play a factor in this incident, but at the same time, what I can tell you, during the past interactions that the police had, he was never apprehended by the police. He just didn't raise it to that level that the officer had grounds to apprehend him and perhaps take him to a hospital for assessment. And I know in one of the interactions from our mental health support team that the York Regional Police has, they did offer him mental health support resources.
Hopefully we are discussing is to try to find the solutions, ways to eliminate that possibility happening again. I don't wait until something happens in your neighborhood. Do it today, do yesterday, not tomorrow.
The counselor introduced 2 resolutions, proposing better protections for condo dwellers across the country, and to increase funding for mental health services and victim services in York Region.
What we didn't realize is the overall impact on the entire condo building or the entire community in Vaughan. So since then, what we have implemented with the Region of York is a program called Traumatic Incident Response Teams, because as we learned as this investigation went on, is we may feel that the only people impacted are those direct family members. Of course they are, but also that person who lives on a different floor but walks by that yellow tape.
For the sergeant who shot and killed the suspect, those actions still weigh heavily on him.
When you're training, it's fine, it's fun, it's exciting, you know, but when you have to shoot somebody to kill them, it's not the same at all.
The sergeant also had to wait for the SIU to release its findings.
It was a few days before my birthday. I got the news that the SIU had cleared me. I was very ecstatic, happy, relieved.
This was the largest mass casualty event we had had in the history of York Region. In this case, the heroic actions of our officers saved further lives. There's no doubt in my mind. You know, we're asking them to do some of the most difficult work that many people would never want to put themselves in the way of.
Yeah, my therapist, my wife has been amazing. My family has been very supportive. People need to deal with stuff as it happens. I had 25 years of death and destruction in my career.
The sergeant will never be able to return to policing.
I have Parkinson's, PTSD. I'm dealing with that right now as a result of the incident, the PTSD. Parkinson's, I was diagnosed back in November 2023 after the incident occurred. I just want people to know that I'm okay, I'll be okay, and all the other people will be okay, but we will live with it forever.
I felt for him being off work for so long, not knowing what was going to happen with his future.
I'm sure you felt that man was heroic.
Oh, I did. And so I did feel for him. And I'm so glad when they did finally announce that he was cleared. I was happy for him.
To look at you, I wouldn't have even known that you had been shot in the face, right here, around your mouth, right?
Right. It's a little crooked. It's numb. They had to reconstruct my whole jaw because I lost all my the nerves and bone and 3 teeth. So the whole bottom is gone.
When John and Doreen first sat down with me to tell their story, it was just a few months after the shooting. Doreen was still too self-conscious to show her face. That's the physical. What about the emotional?
The emotional is, to me, I'm okay. I don't mind talking about it. I do feel better when I do talk about it, but I want to forget about it.
Doreen DiNino spent 6 weeks in hospital, recovering from the gunshot wound to her face. Her husband, John, by her bedside throughout.
The relationship, the love for my wife, has always been over the top, but this is something that is something unimaginable. Her resilience, her strength, and I think that's what gives me the strength. I think that's what gives our family the strength.
Has it changed your sense of security?
A little, but I was determined to come home, so I'd like to stay.
But staying has not been so easy, and they've asked that we not reveal anything about their current living arrangements or location.
I don't cry for myself. I cry for the other ones that are gone. But I'm just happy to be here with my husband, my children, my grandkids. That's my happiness. Okay. How are you feeling today?
I'm all right. I think I'm doing okay. You know how this is, right? It's a roller coaster.
Yeah. You know, a little bit of swelling, but I feel good.
A few years have now passed, and we met back up at the condo. Does it feel like it's been that long? Or does it feel like just yesterday?
It feels like it's yesterday every day.
No.
Yeah, why does it feel different for you?
It's been a long time. I feel like, I've come a long way, slowly but surely.
But this is not who she was. She's not 100% of who Doreen was. I'm not 100% of who John was.
My emotions go when I think of the 5 people. That's where, it really, really hurts. Focus on the positive. I'm here, I have a second chance in life, in my eyes.
Some of the other people didn't get that chance.
No,
right?
absolutely not.
A coroner's inquest is expected in the coming years. In the meantime, the families of all 5 victims continue to grieve and wait for answers. The children of Lorraine and Russell Manock told us it is sickening that our judicial system couldn't recognize, after years of court cases and police visits, that the killer was menacing, hazardous, unpredictable, and a threat to society. Thank you for joining us tonight on Crime Beat. I'm Anthony Robart. Want more episodes of Crime Beat? Listen to the Crime Beat podcast now for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. And for past episodes of Crime Beat, go to the Global TV app, visit globaltv.com, or check out our Crime Beat YouTube page.